Today on CityCast DC. Remember when cupcakes were all the rage in DC? Or espresso martinis? DC loves the food trend. But what will be the things in drink, dining, and DC's food scene in 2026? Jessica Sidman, Washingtonian food editor and friend of CityCast, is here, and she's going to walk through her list of what's in and what's out in DC dining for 2026. Today's Tuesday, January 13th. I'm Bridget Todd, and here's what DC is talking about. Jessica, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Thanks for having me.
Oh, thank you for being here. Okay, let's get into it because I was just looking at your 2026 ins and outs list for Washington, D.C. I'm just curious, just generally, how does a piece like this come together? Because it's just, for folks who haven't seen it, it's just a list of in and out. No confusion, no explanation. You're not justifying anything. It's like, here's what's in, here's what's out. How do you decide what goes in and what goes out?
Yeah, I mean, really, it's the product of just paying attention to the food scene all year long. I will say, sometimes when people do the in and out list, it's like an aspirational thing, like what I want to be out versus what I want to be in. But my in and out list is meant to be more a reflection of actual trends that I think are coming and going. Usually I don't explain them. I let people fight about them in the comments, but I am here today to explain.
Yeah, explain yourself, because I will say I felt a little personally attacked by Passenger being on the outs. I said, I go there all the time. I love that place. Then I sat down and think about it, and I'm like, I guess I haven't been in a while, and I guess it's been there for a while. What do you think is the most controversial thing on this list? What have you actually heard from folks?
First, let me say, the reason you probably haven't been there in a while is it closed.
Oh!
But that said, it is actually making a comeback under a new owner this year, but I don't think it will be the same. And, I think for that one specifically, so it was out the Passenger in EB's, which is kind of a very basic bar that does basic things really well and has become wildly popular because of that. But the Passenger was really known as like an industry hangout. And I think that EB's has taken that mantle as the new, after shift place to get a drink. So just to explain that one. And, but you asked me what was the most controversial thing on the list. And I was actually surprised this year. The most controversial was out omakase, in all you can eat sushi.
I mean, that actually makes a ton of sense to me because, I don't know, I feel like I can speak for myself. I'm really looking for deals right now. I'm not really interested in sort of, pay a lot of money and you get a little bit. I want to really get my money's worth. Do you think that's what's reflected there?
Yeah. And I mean, listen, I love an omakase. I think like omakase at Barracks Row, for example, I think is probably one of the best restaurants in the entire city. So I'm not saying, omakase is bad. I don't like omakase anymore. I'm just saying, I think as a trend, omakase has peaked. It is a very saturated market, maybe starting to get oversaturated. As you were saying, I think that this is going to be a year where people are very value minded. And when it comes to value, I mean, what's better than an all-you-can-eat, deal? And we're actually seeing all-you-can-eat sushi restaurants booming, particularly in the suburbs in Northern Virginia. But there are a couple new ones in DC, Sushi Sato, which just opened on 8th Street, and Your Sushi at Love Makoto. They just launched an all-you-can-eat sushi brunch buffet. So I think that's just where the energy is right now.
And you mentioned EB's, and I wonder if that's sort of part of it too, that it's just a really good bar with really good food. And I wonder if that's the kind of thing that folks are really gravitating toward. Is I've not been yet, but I've seen lots and lots of social posts kind of hyping it up. Is EB, like, is it really that good? Like, what are folks saying about this spot?
Yeah, and I have to admit, I haven't personally been yet. But like another thing I had on the list is out seen in Seoul. The last couple years have really been this period of maximalism, all about the vibes and aesthetic and the scene. And I think, people are just maybe a little exhausted by that. And they want something a little more comforting, like something basic done well, which, I think Evie's is a great example of that. It's not, trying to have all these TikTok cocktails and like over the top decor, people just want something with a little more depth right now.
Oh my God, I have to laugh at myself a little bit because when I saw in Seoul out scene, I was like, oh, are these restaurants that I have not heard of? And then I realized what you meant. But I do think we're looking for authentic, cozy, the experiences that I've had in my nights out recently that have been memorable are the ones that feel, it's not the ones with the most Instagrammable view, but the drinks and food are kind of meh. It's the ones that feel authentic, feel cozy, and that's what I'm remembering about it. I do think that we've hit this fever pitch of sort of, doing it for the gram. I think we've kind of hit peak of that a little bit.
Yeah, I think so too, for sure. And it's all a little, recession core, if you will. We're not quite in a recession, but there's a lot of economic uncertainty right now. And I think in uncertain economic times, people do seek comfort and nostalgia.
Yeah, out chaos in caution, right?
Yeah, I mean, 2025 was in a lot of ways a really chaotic year for the dining scene. I mean, with the Trump administration coming in, you had these mass federal layoffs, you had what's happening with the tariffs, the National Guard, immigration crackdown, the longest government shutdown in history. And then all this drama over the tipped wage. So it was just one thing after another, a very chaotic year. I think that a lot of restaurant owners are really tiptoeing into this year, just bracing themselves for it to be a tough year. And there's a lot of caution. I mean, I've talked to at least a couple of restaurant owners who have projects, restaurants or bars they want to do, but are holding off for now just because they're not sure what's to come and want a little bit more predictability before they proceed. So yeah, I think it's going to be a year of caution.
Don't miss Folger Theater's 4th annual Reading Room Festival on stage January 22nd through the 25th at the Folger Shakespeare Library. Join us as we collaboratively re-envision Shakespeare's works, explore the vibrant musicality of Shakespeare's verses, and reimagine the stories crafted by other early modern playwrights in this 4-day festival of staged readings, panel discussions, workshops, and community celebrations. This year's lineup features works from Alexa Babakania, Alberto Bonilla, Barbara Fuchs, and Marcus Gardley, with Arena Stage's artistic director, Hannah S. Sharif, directing one staged reading. Celebrate the spirit of collaborative theater making and community with the Folger. Enjoy all the festival has to offer for only $125 by purchasing an all-access pass at folger.edu/readingroom. Get yours today. And you did say that, sadly, first-time restaurateur debuts might sort of be on the way out, and big group restaurant expansions might be kind of in for right now. Is that a function of that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, looking at the list of places that are opening this year, there's a lot of familiar names, a lot of big corporate names, but not a lot of fresh new names. And I think it's a really hard time to break into this industry. There's a lot of headwinds for a number of reasons. And I think, again, in economic uncertainty, like the places that are going to be opening and expanding are well capitalized. We're seeing a lot of these big groups from New York, and even like the bigger local groups are the ones that are expanding and opening new concepts for the most part.
One of the things that you mentioned was I-82. You say that fighting over I-82 is out, which, boy, do I hope you're right, because I know that is an issue that people people speak up about. I guess I'll put it that way. And It's being replaced with what's in, which is fighting over the $25 minimum wage ballot initiative. Where does the restaurant industry stand with that right now?
Yeah, so this was another very turbulent issue this year. Obviously the mayor came out earlier this year and tried to repeal Initiative 82, and there was this big fight, in the DC Council, and they ultimately altered these changes to the tipped wage to eventually phase it out and kind of slowed it down and ultimately kind of capped what that tipped wage would be at. It seemed like maybe that was settled with the council's decision. Advocates for, this one fair wage are back, and they're pushing to get another initiative on the ballot this November that would raise the minimum wage, including for tipped workers, to $25 an hour. And this is still in the early stages. They still need to collect signatures and get over a couple, more of the administrative hurdles. But I expect that fight will be just as ugly as it was for Initiative 82.
Do you have any sense, if you had to read the tea leaves a bit, do you have any sense of how that might look going forward?
Oh gosh, it's so hard to say. I mean, this is now the third time that this issue will potentially be in front of voters, because there was, before Initiative 82, there was Initiative 77, which you may remember the council overturned. The voters came back and they overwhelmingly passed Initiative 82. By all indications, it seems like it could pass again. Are they gonna maybe have to face some hurdles to get it on the ballot, some challenges to get it on the ballot in the first place? And what is the DC Council going to do if it does pass again? There's so much, it's just history repeating itself as far as I'm concerned.
I want to talk about some of the other trends that you're excited about. What else is on your radar for 2026 in DC, our food scene, that you're maybe didn't make it in, but you're excited about or keeping an eye on?
Yeah, I mean, like, for example, I had this on the list, out going to the restaurant for cocktails, in going to the bar for food. I think one thing that's been really cool to see are these bars, really, that you think like, okay, this seems like a great place to get a cocktail. Maybe they've got some vinyl, whatever. But then you go and try the food and you're like, oh, actually, this is amazing food that's on par with some of the best restaurants in the city. I'm thinking of places like Cana in Adams Morgan, which is a Brazilian bar, or, Maison wine bar that just opened also in Adams Morgan. And I think there's a lot of reasons that a bar is appealing to a lot of kind of restaurant owners right now, with the service model being a little bit easier and just like the energy that a bar brings. And so, I love that, because I love just sitting at the bar and also being able to have a great meal there. We mentioned Evie's too, like their burger is the talk of the town. So there's a lot of examples of that, and I think that's just a really fun thing for our city right now.
Oh, so I'm happy that you mentioned Kana. I love their brunch. I stand 10 toes down on their brunch. And I'm like you. I mean, I love an occasional night out at a good restaurant. These days, it's sort of a rarer and rarer treat. But nothing beats a good bar to me. A good bar with good food. That really is something special. And I agree with you that I think that we're going to see more and more bars start offering good food. And I think people are excited about that.
Yeah, I think that's a win-win for everybody.
What are your thoughts on Andy's Bagels?
Okay, and this is another one where I have not tried them yet. So I had out H&H Bagels, which was kind of this legendary New York bagel company that arrived in DC, but has kind of largely been panned since it opened by locals. But meanwhile, for those who are familiar with Andy's Pizza, which is a beloved New York style pizza shop started in DC. They recently launched bagels at their Bethesda location, and they're again New York style, but the dough's fermented 72 hours, so it has kind of like this bubbly crust to it. And I've been hearing really good things, and they're planning to roll that out to their other Andy's Pizza locations in the coming months. And I think that's a very welcome addition to the bagel scene and the bagel discourse.
Yeah, I feel like we needed a little bit of a bagel discourse shakeup in DC.
Yes, yeah. It's funny. I feel like one of the things that people love to argue about the most in DC are bagels, whether we have decent ones or not and who has the best ones. It's always a very hot topic.
I took a lot of heat on this very podcast for my controversial, but I think accurate opinions about a very well-known and beloved bagel restaurant here in DC.
Oh, do tell.
I'll say it. I think Call Your Mother's a little overrated. I think it's overpriced. The idea that people were standing out like, I think fundamentally bagels are not a food. I wouldn't stand online for much, but I was surprised when we were going through that phase where people were standing in line to get it. I thought it was all a bit much. People don't agree, and that's fine.
Yeah, I think I like their bagel sandwiches. To me, their bagels are a little sweet. If I was just having a standalone bagel, I don't know. But it's a fun place, though. They always are doing interesting specials and stuff like that. So I'm still a fan.
Yeah, I don't dislike it. I thought the discourse around it was a little bit much.
Fair.
Yeah, just to make sure that my hating is clear.
I can respect that.
Speaking of people like having controversial takes and people having responses, how have folks been responding to your predictions? What have you heard the most about?
Honestly, I feel like it's gone over pretty well. I would say, yeah, the most controversial was saying that omakase was out. I think the other one that was semi-controversial was that Michelin stars were out and Washington Post stars were in. But I think the most recent Michelin guide kind of reinforced what I've felt for a long time, which is that the Michelin Guide is just a terrible representation of the DC restaurant scene. Even if you're just looking at fine dining, there's so many great places that haven't fully gotten their due. And, this year where they didn't award any new stars to DC, and ultimately the city lost a bunch of stars because of closures, and then the Inn at Little Washington was downgraded, which I don't necessarily disagree with that one, but meanwhile, the Washington Post, under its new food critic, has brought back its stars. And so I think there's a lot of intrigue about what those will mean. I think that's something that people will be paying a lot of attention to this year.
That's so interesting. With the Michelin Guide, is it a little bit of like, oh, y'all don't want us, we don't want you, just if you're going to, is that sort of a little bit about what's going on?
I mean, who knows? Michelin to me is just so opaque. I cannot understand it. They have these anonymous inspectors, and I think because of that, they get this kind of mystique and gives them a kind of credibility by, in a way, like not having transparency. But we don't know who are these inspectors? How well do they know the restaurant scene? What biases might they have? At least with local restaurant critics, just to tout Washingtonian, 100 very best restaurants, like, who we are. You can read us and know what our tastes are, and you can agree with us or disagree with us, but it's easier to understand, where we're coming from than Michelin, where they just put out this guide and it's totally mysterious. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe one more for your list, in or out, being shrouded in mystery, in full transparency.
Yeah. And, also look at the Washington Post critic, Elazar. He is no longer anonymous. He's showing his face.
There you go.
Yeah.
Jessica, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Thanks for having me.
That is all for today here on CityCast DC. If you enjoyed the show, share it with your friend that you can't wait to go to dinner with. You can rate the show, leave us a review, and subscribe to our morning newsletter. And you know what's definitely in for 2026? Becoming a CityCast DC neighbor, of course. You can do that at membership.citycast.fm. We'll be back tomorrow morning with even more news from around the city. Talk to you then.